Given the lag in time before we actually see the ramifications in the hard data, how do you understand the soft data that some people say is incredibly and increasingly noisy and other people say is a prediction of what's to come?
So things like some of the consumer surveys have shown a very dramatic change. I would say that's noisy numbers, but it doesn't mean that it's data that you should completely ignore. So I think consumers are very concerned about what the price effects are going to be and are starting to worry about how much they're going to be affected. I think a lot of people are also concerned about rising unemployment, and the ADP report, as you highlighted, was relatively weak. So I think there's going to be growing concern as we get into the summer that we are likely to see a recession. A lot of economists are beginning to predict that. And I think there is a chance, unless the administration pulls back on its tariff policy, that we will see some pretty slow growth and continued problems in the hard data as we get into the summer.
We're in the quiet period for the Federal Reserve members ahead of the Fed meeting next week. There has been, though, a lot of communication about just what they see and how they perceive the potential risks going forward of both inflation or weaker growth or disinflation among some. Do you think that at a time like this, there should be more communication or less communication from the Fed members?
Well, what you need is clear communication. And I think it's very difficult at this time to be particularly clear. First of all, we don't know if some of the policies are going to be reversed. It is possible that negotiations go well with some of the foreign trading partners and agreements are made quickly. Now, most trade agreements take years to actually negotiate. So my guess is it's going to be more of a letter of intent than it's going to be an actual agreement. But nonetheless, there's a lot of uncertainty about how long this policy sticks. And then there's the question of how it starts affecting individual behavior. These tariffs are much, much larger than anything we've seen since the Great Depression. So our statistical models don't have this kind of foreign shock in the data. So I think they're going to, and the other issue is what you highlighted in the opening, which was it's a problem both for unemployment and inflation. And that makes it more difficult for the Fed. The Fed is going to be concerned that the inflation numbers are already up and it's before the full impact of the tariffs. And if we start seeing inflation rates at 3.5% or 4%, which depending on where the tariffs end up, at least the reported data over the course of this year could get that high. That's going to make it difficult for the Fed to be reacting preemptively to any concerns they have about growing recession concerns. So it's a very awkward position for the Fed to be in. And I think they're going to move relatively slowly until it's apparent exactly what the inflation employment shocks are.